process where all of a sudden they can speak all languages, similar maybe to how the apostles in the Bible spoke in tongues and something like that.
These things happen because within the deep recesses of the human constitution or the human mind, there are powers beyond description, and there are also powers that we have not reached within ourselves. It's possible that if you got some crisis, you would evolve powers that you didn't previously know you had. And some people have experienced instances where, for instance, you are confronted by a burning house. And you rush in, you walk into the house, you pick your paper, you get out without being burned. Then when you get out and you realize that you entered the house and got out, you start shaking. Why? Because the conscious self cannot believe that you could enter a house and get out which is burning. But then this has happened because possibly we are operating at a higher level. And that higher level of operation is not the everyday experience that human beings have. But all the people who have had crisis situations which they have gotten out without themselves being conscious about it, can tell you that it is possible to all of a sudden find yourself speak 12 languages without going through language education in the traditional sense, or similar experiences. Yes.
Okay. I feel you where you're coming from.
Yes. But maybe in the ordinary everyday world, we could encourage ourselves and our viewers to be deliberate about their transformation, find things they need to transform about themselves, and then work towards transforming themselves.
So in summary, you're saying that there is a process that the transformation can actually take.
Yes.
I think we have discussed the situation where there is a disorienting dilemma or a conflict within self.
Yes.
You've talked about now what we just talked about. Is there like some pointer, a number of things that you would say this is the highlight of how you can start to recognize that transformation is taking place?
Yes. Once you have identified a crisis and you have decided to work on it, transformation will take place. I will use different areas in which you can transform. If you're a person who doesn't earn income, who doesn't work, and you say, I am going to look for a job. If I don't get it, I will clean the streets. And people find you cleaning the streets and give you tokens. You have started earning money. When you earn that money, naturally your finances have begun transforming.
Yes.
If then people say, but you clean very well, can you come and clean my personal private estate? And you charge for it, it means you have transformed your earning infrastructure from the initial worklessness to voluntary public work, then to getting tokens, then to negotiating earnings from your work. When these services along the way give you income, your finances are transformed. But also your work ethic. Because you didn't work, then you started working small, then the work resulted into some significant work that earns you income. It means now you can associate work with earnings. Once you start associating work with earnings, it is likely that the incentive to continue to work and therefore continue to work will grow. At some point, you will find that it is discomforting for you not to work. When the work becomes a natural part of you, you are now transformed. When income becomes a natural part of your life because of resulting from work, again you are transformed. So the transformation process unfolds progressively, but there should be a point when you can say, I think now I am transformed. Another example, if you were a person who overdrinks, let me use the example of drinking alcohol, and at some point you say, I think whenever I drink so much that I get drunk. But then let me now reduce. I used to take 12 beers, now I'm going to take 2 beers. Then you take 8, then you take 6, then the next month you reduce to 3. Then then you realize, wait a minute, I used to take 12 beers, but now I take 3. Can't I stop altogether? And you're like, I think I can stop this. Although initially you are struggling with yourself, once you spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months without taking beer, it will become normal to you that you can live without drinking. If you said, man, I think I no longer want to drink, and you can tell your friends that you have spent 3 months without drinking, we can say you have transformed. Of course, there may be benefits of drinking alcohol, but there are also losses. If you think that your stopping to drink alcohol has brought you some benefits that you didn't have while drinking, you can concretely say, I am a transformed person because I am a total teetotaler. If you were
that's a hard word.
Yes, I used to drink myself, and until the mid-teen age, I was good at drinking. And I would drink hard liquors, these hard spirits.
You mean to say that you actually stopped? Or?
Mine was not a transformation, mine was a crisis. So what happened is that all of a sudden, I was a teenager, I was in secondary school. I got drunk and I didn't like it myself. So the next day my friend said, hey guy, you got drunk and you really entertained us. I said, really? Yes, I was drunk. Yes, you were drunk. I said, okay, that's the last time you're going to have my entertainment. They thought I was joking, and since 2008, I have never drunk again. You can call that crisis transformation because the decision was abrupt. I don't know whether previously I had been struggling wanting to stop because the incentive to stop drinking is very uncommon among teenagers. That's when other people start drinking, that's when they stop drinking. So I don't know whether there was some initial previous experience of wanting or struggling, wanting to stop drinking. But once they said I got drunk, I didn't like it. I stopped abruptly, and since then. So you can say that I am not transformed.
I wanted to question your experience. Would I be right to say that maybe the social pressure, maybe you want to please the people that you live with, the people who thought that you had actually entertained, would that be one of the things that can trigger a person? In your case, would that have been the trigger?
The social challenge that I would transform a people whom I had not intended to transform. I mean that I could entertain.
Yes.
The social challenge that I would entertain a group of friends whom I did not intend to entertain at that moment was actually the trigger that forced me to stop drinking. I don't know whether my stopping drinking was a transformation, but the process of stopping was not easy because along the way you feel like doing it again, then you resist your temptation, and then the friends come and call you and say, you seem to have abandoned us. You say, no, if you are going to drink, I'm not with you, but if you are going to play football, we are together. The process of resisting the temptation to go back is the actual transformation process I can think about, until after like a few months, when the thinking and the urge to drink completely disappear. So that, I think, was the process of transformation. The trigger was that realization that I had entertained the people whom I had not wanted to entertain, although now I can entertain people when I'm sober. When the process of struggling against the urge to drink again was overcome, I said to myself, now I am transformed. Now the same can apply to anything, to business, to personal choices, or even personal relationships. If you're a person who quarrels with your parents, with your spouse, or with your friends, and you always quarrelsome, you can decide and say, why is it that I always have disagreements with my friends, I always have disagreements with my parents, with my siblings, with my husband, with my wife? Once you raise that question with you, that means that you have a crisis you are facing with. If in that crisis you make a choice and say, this must stop. And then you follow through that choice. You reach a point where the things that used to irritate you no longer irritate you. And when you reach that point, we can say that you have become transformed.
Yeah, so the first step again means that you have to catch yourself in the crisis moment. Can you say that someone would continue throughout the transformation phase if they are not aware? I think I've asked this question before. It goes back to the consciousness. But can someone continue the transformation phase up to completion if they are not aware that something, I think I'm over quarreling with my husband, I think I'm over fighting with my friends, maybe I need to stop. If they don't catch themselves, personally, I think that awareness state is one of the most crucial ones. What would you say about it?
You see, awareness about a crisis from which you need to turn, or the turnaround, is a very difficult and again personal phenomenon. We all live in situations where we are on the defensive. I am right, I am right, I am right, I am right. Even when you may be the one wrong, or even if the other person were wrong, there are better alternatives. But the ego keeps telling us that we are right, we are on the right, someone is on the wrong. Until by some superego, you discover that even when you may be right, the way you relate with your friend, with your spouse, with your parent or your sibling is not productive. Once you are able to define that in terms of benefits, my selfish self indicates to me that my relationship is not benefiting me. Until that moment, then you may not start the process of transformation unless some crisis hits you. For example, even if you insisted in thinking that you are right, or that you're always on the right and the other party is on the wrong, but in the process of insisting, somehow you quarrel and the guy punches you and breaks a bit of your foreskin and you bleed, and you say, I think this is going too much. It should not happen again. When that happens, out of that crisis situation, you may now turn around and say, whenever they quarrel, I will keep quiet. Whenever they come wanting to hit me, I will walk away. That can also be a transformation process until a point reaches where they too realize that they have no reason to quarrel with you or to fight with you or to disagree with you. But the process that starts internally, in my opinion, is the best.